嗨，大家好，今天我们要来聊聊汤姆利最新的访谈内容。这是关于11月份比特币市场波动的深入讨论，非常值得一听。那在开始这期节目之前，想请大家帮我们点赞、订阅、开启小铃铛，我们会持续追踪全球币圈新闻热点，帮大家第一时间了解行业动向和市场行情。那下面我们就来看看具体内容吧。
Yeah, well, I think the market's been struggling with the same things that it's grappled with all year, which is a monetary policy direction that's not completely clear. As you know, the odds of a December cut have really jumped around from as high as 60 down to 30, back to 80. And the second is, of course, policy volatility, because the administration does make proclamations and statements that are sometimes head fakes but confuse investors, and it's all resulted in really suppressed enthusiasm for stocks. Sentiment has been bearish.
那首先主持人谈到了 Tom 前几周曾说过11月份上半月可能会出现一些波动，但整体仍然看涨，所以主持人直接询问 Tom 对接下来的市场有何看法。
Where does it leave us in your mind? I mean, as I mentioned, 4 days, this market has barely even flinched at pretty much all the hurdles that were along the way. The moving averages, we got above last Thursday's high. We know it's kind of an upside bias the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and the Friday after. But beyond that, where do we go?
那汤姆利回答说，目前市场一直在努力应对今年整年的困境，造成这种情况的原因有两个，一个是当前货币政策方向不完全清晰，美联储12月降息的可能性一直在摇摆。之前有 60% 的概率会在12月降息，后来跌到了 30%， 之后呢又回到了 80%， 这种不确定性让大家很紧张。那第二个当然是政策的波动性，有时候政府发布的声明和公告是虚晃一枪，这让投资者感到很困惑。所有这些原因都压制了加密市场的热情，情绪整体偏向看跌。那汤姆利谈论的两点原因，也正是目前加密市场一直起伏不定的关键。美联储迟迟不肯宣布降息，全球经济萎靡不振，严重影响了加密市场投资者的信心。再加上特朗普政府在关税问题上比较任性，那这也一定程度上影响了投资者的热情。
I think we're set up for a really strong rally into year end. And I know we just came out of a pretty terrible grind. I've talked to a lot of PMs that have said it's one of their worst 6-week periods ever in their career. So we know people have lost money, they've de-risked. But we know into year end we have the positive seasonals, especially given how strong May to October was. It's really a 5 to 6 chance that we're going to be up 5% into year end.
Right.
The second is monetary policy, I think, is going to shift dovish. Even if Fed Chair Powell is hawkish, we know it waiting in the wings is now a shadow Fed that's dovish. The third is we know sentiment is going to have to chase this rally because 80% of fund managers are trailing their benchmark. And then I think the fundamental story is pretty intact. As we're doing work into next year, and I think earnings visibility is going to be really good. So I don't think I'm questioning if earnings are peaking. It's more just that stocks price in and correct enough.
主持人接下来谈到，最近几天市场一直处于稳定上涨趋势，甚至突破了上周四的高点。接下来，汤姆利对市场走向有何看法呢
？Now, you mentioned obviously the confusion over the path for the Fed as contributing to this recent pullback, as well as some policy flux in there. What role did the violent shakeout in crypto have on all that? Because a week ago,
Tom 认为目前市场已经在为年末的强劲反弹做好准备了。他同很多投资人和基金经理聊过，过去6周的行情非常糟糕，尤其是经历了10月11号的恐怖市场行情，很多人亏了不少钱。现在大家普遍认为风险已经结束，情绪在恢复。同时，随着进入年末，加上一些积极的季节性影响因素，Tom 估计有 50%到60% 的概率年底会整体上涨 5%。第二点是货币政策，Tom 认为美联储在压力下会释放降息信号。目前能做的就是耐心等待。那在经历了10月到11月的恐慌之后，整个基本面呈现向好的趋势。汤姆认为明年的盈利前景也非常乐观。从这个回答中我们可以看到，汤姆对于接下来市场走势呈乐观态度，认为接下来会触底反弹。
Yeah, so if, in a way, it means crypto represents really a very precise measurement of risk appetite because there's so much more leverage, and that got wiped out.
Right.
That last time it happened in 2022, it took 8 weeks.
主持人提到了美联储政策路径的不确定性是导致近期回调的原因之一，还有其他的政策波动。所以他问 Tom， 加密货币市场的剧烈震荡对这一切有什么影响？
That's all we were talking about was Bitcoin can't stop going down. The NASDAQ wants to follow it, or people are concerned about how that's going to knock other things loose in other financial assets. So it's stabilized, but it's not exactly sort of participating to the upside in this bounce.
Yes, so crypto had been a leading indicator for actually most of the last 5 years. But on October 10th, crypto had what I would call Armageddon, a flash event, but it led to a liquidation that was never seen in the 15 years history of Bitcoin. About a third of the market makers went out of business that day. Almost 2 million accounts went to zero.
Yeah.
And it was because of a pricing error, what I would call a glitch. And it led to.
回答：加密货币在过去5年的大部分时间里一直是一个领先指标，但在11月11号，加密货币经历了所谓世界末日的闪电事件后，导致了比特币15年历史上从没有见过的大清算，大约1/3的做市商在那天停业，近200万个账户归零。这是因为市场里出现了一个定价出错的小事故，它称之为小故障。简单来说，加密市场有很多人是用杠杆做交易的，就是借钱来放大收益。但这次波动把这些杠杆都一下子清掉了。他还说，这种事上一次发生是在2022年，当时市场大概花了8周时间才慢慢恢复冷静，重新稳住。所以他觉得现在市场正在走同样的恢复阶段，已经越来越接近底部了。Tom 的这个观点和其他人的观点相同，自从10月11号加密市场经历了黑天鹅事件后，一直处于萎靡不振的状态，比特币的走势也时涨时跌。也正是黑天鹅事件清除了很多杠杆，接下来比特币才会迎来一个新的高度。只不过上一次花了8周时间，这一次又会需要多久？目前都是入场比较好的时机。
Okay, so basically that is kind of sidelined the idea of what Bitcoin 150,000 you were thinking.
主持人之后提出了一个大家都很关心的问题，他问 Tom 是否改变了之前认为比特币年底会到15万美元的想法。
Very likely that Bitcoin's going to be above 100,000 before year end, and maybe even above one to a new high. So Bitcoin makes its moves in 10 days in every year. I think some of those best days are still going to happen before year end.
Tom 的回答说，目前仍然认为比特币在年底前很有可能超过10万美元，甚至可能创下新高。但是对于15万美元的价格，他并没有给出明确的答案。但是他也提到了，比特币的走势通常是在10天内完成的。他相信美好的事情将在年底发生。那关于这次 Tom Lee 的访谈，我们可以得到的是，投资者们对于接下来的市场行情普遍都是比较看好的。尤其是 Tom 依旧认为年底比特币的价格会突破新高，甚至可能达到15万美元。那对于当下来说，大家是怎么看待比特币的走势的？欢迎在评论区留言，我们一起来讨论。还没有点赞和订阅的朋友，记得帮我们点一下。那我们下期再见吧，拜拜。